Right now, let's introduce a very special guest. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Brian Brownfield. He's the Sports Information Coordinator at Menlo College. Brian, thank you very much for joining us. Now, we had talked off air, Menlo College, okay, and being in the Bay Area, we're surrounded by pro franchises. You got Cal and Stanford and all that if we're going to get to the college level. But Menlo is a school that has some really phenomenal stories. First off, kind of just highlight some of the great things that are happening at the school right now.
Yeah, we have a ton of great stories to tell. It's just a shame that not a lot of people get to hear those stories on a regular basis. We have 6 ranked teams in the NAIA this season. We have a #1 ranked team. Our women's wrestling program is currently the #1 team in the entire nation and #2 in the WCWA, which accumulates all the women's wrestling talent out there in the country. Our women's basketball team ranked number 11 overall, and 6 of our teams this year have set program records for highest ranking collectively. We got a lot of good things going on the field, on the mats, on the court, but also off as well. Last season, 15 of our 16 varsity athletic programs, 3.0 GPAs or better. So that's setting the bar pretty darn high.
Wow.
Right.
That's amazing.
True standard of a student athlete. Yeah. Now, obviously, what is your day-to-day operations? We know your hands are full, and especially in smaller schools, they kind of tend to have guys who fill in multiple roles. Tell us about your daily dose of work.
Yeah, so as the sports information coordinator, it's kind of a jack-of-all-trades position. You're doing a little bit of everything, similar to what we were talking off the air about covering minor league baseball to an extent. A lot of times I'm showing up, I'm getting all the information out to our various media outlets, other teams, other programs, getting stuff ready for our own home events. Work closely with the game operations director to get things settled for home games. I'm either doing the live broadcasts for our games or doing the live stats, writing all the recaps afterwards, putting together our highlight videos. It's a very hectic job when you start to get into crossover season, which we're just about to get into here in January.
So you don't sleep?
Basically, no. Yeah, it can be you're getting there at 7 in the morning and sometimes you're leaving close to midnight kind of job.
Wow.
But I love every minute of it because Menlo is a special place to me. I was there as a student. I'm there now as an employee, and collegiate athletics is just amazing. It's the best. Yeah,
no, and it offers so many different opportunities, right? And one more thing I want to dive into right now is you mentioned the broadcasting. Let's pull up a clip of the basketball games that Brian's doing, and let's listen to some of your handiwork real quick. No, because it's fantastic. Let's listen to it real quick.
Rogers to Aaliyah Brantley. Brantley into the corner, Mirolovsenko for 3. She got it.
I like it. I love it.
High screen set by Brantley. Rogers, right wing, outside the arc. Back up top, Lovsenko. Left side, Heichel. She wants 3, and she got it again.
Now,
this look produced a lot of points for the Oaks.
You have going into it. How much prep work goes into the game, right? Because it's one thing to be buried in the staff, but another thing to get ready for the broadcast. Right?
In an ideal world, I would spend probably anywhere from 2 to 4 hours on a game. As a sports information coordinator of a college, when you're dealing with teams that don't oftentimes have the greatest amount of resources in terms of information out there, sometimes I'm not spending more than an hour getting ready for a game simply just because I don't have the time to do so. That's the most difficult part.
I think that's how many different duties that you have to cover. What are some of the play-by-play crews that have influenced your style, would you say? You're getting ready?
Well, one as of late has really been Doc Emmerich. I love the work he does for the NHL. I feel like if you listen to a hockey game and you don't love Mike Emmerich, you hate hockey, as it turns out.
Right.
For baseball, being here in the Bay Area, I love Kruk and Kuip for the Giants. Yes, I'm an A's fan, but I love the work that they do. I love John Miller and Dave Fleming, but of course, I got to give love to my A's guys. Kuiper over there and Ray Fosse, and on the radio side, it's Ken Korak and Vince Cotroneo. I had the pleasure of meeting those guys before getting into the broadcast booth, and I really love the work they do and how they really paint a picture for what's going on every single game, because when you're on the radio, that's how it is. And over at Menlo, we're a small school. We don't have the best video production out there. We do the best that we can, of course. So my job as a broadcaster becomes a little bit more important. I have to be still the eyes and the ears of the audience, even though they have that camera shot.
Now, you mentioned your women's, and we just saw some great video of you on the call with your women's basketball team. They're pretty competitive, obviously. What's their travel schedule like? Who do you guys play? Do you travel with them to all road games, some road games? What is that like?
So I'll start off by saying, no, I don't travel. I wish I did, because then I'd get to call all these games, which would be amazing. But no, don't travel. We play in the Golden State Athletic Conference. This is our 4th year in the GSAC. There's one school up here in the NorCal, up in the Rockland area, William Jessup University, but everywhere else is either Southern California or in the western part of Arizona, so in the Phoenix and Surprise areas. So yeah, so for the basketball teams, fortunately, they're able to fly because they're smaller rosters. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of times it's some long bus rides down south. If they're lucky, they fly. But the way the schedule works out, usually it's pretty good. It's going, one weekend here, one weekend on the road. And so it's usually not too taxing, but I'm sure the athletes might get a little bit exhausted towards the end of the year.
Well, that brings up another point, because the dynamic is fascinating when you're talking about a smaller school. I mean, this team went to the quarterfinals in the championship tournament last year. How have you witnessed the program build itself up into a contender? Because I can imagine it's difficult when you're talking about a smaller school, right?
Absolutely is. And when you take the women's basketball program, it's a perfect example. When we moved over into the GSAC a couple of years ago, I was just finishing up as a student. And we were not very good right away. The competition level was very different. We made the move from NAIA Division II to Division I, so there was a gap in talent. And all of a sudden, the recruiting has gotten better. We've had a little bit more scholarship money to put into the program. And let me tell you, it's taken off. And just seeing how they've been able to do what they have with the resources that they have, it's just a testament to not only the coaching staff we have, but also to the entire athletic department and our sports performance staff. That's something that not a lot of small NAIA programs, some D3s, D2s don't even have a sports performance department. But they've transformed our athletes. They've gotten a lot of them to stay on campus over summers. And, I mean, the results are showing. Last year, we set a program record for, 141 wins as a department. And this year, our winning percentage is even better, up to 61% win percentage on the year so far in 2018, rolling into 19. So it's incredible to see these programs go from what they were when I came in as a student some 6 years ago to where they are now. It's just leaps and bounds better.
Right, and Mark, I've been around the block. I've seen some of these NAIA schools. They can beat up on some of these D3, D2 schools, especially the talented ones.
You get a D1 team on an exhibition night, okay? The NAIA school has been preparing for that game all season long. Right. D1 school walks into it, you can have an interesting night.
Exactly. Now, your student body, the student athletes, where do most of these kids come from? You can talk about any sport, but as we've been talking about basketball, do they get out and recruit the entire state, or is it mostly NorCal students? Where's kind of the recruiting hotbed for some of your teams?
By and large, California, but I mean, you could say that about almost any California school for the most part.
Right.
We are a very diverse school, not just the athletic department, but also the student body. I mean, 52% students of color, 35 different countries. Hawaii is usually a hotbed for us. We have baseball and softball camps there every single year. It's great for women's volleyball. It's actually a hotbed for our new men's volleyball program as well, which is in year number 2. We're starting to see the better we are, the more recognition we're getting around the country. We are starting to get some more kids internationally and also from the Midwest and the East Coast. But California and Hawaii, those are definitely the two hotbeds.
Hawaii represent, I know my school back home in Hawaii, Kamehameha, they had a few people go to Menlo as well, right?
They absolutely have, and I'm slipping on who they are off the top of my head because I get all those names jumbled up together. But we have a trio of women's volleyball standouts from Iolani School down there. Moya Kekawaha, Sierra Busher, and Emily Sonata, who have been there. They all played high school together, played club together. They're here at Menlo now, and they've been killing it for 3 years.
That's awesome. One thing I did want to mention, the women's wrestling team, you said that this is the first time in the history of the school's program, the athletics program, that a team has earned a #1 ranking. I'm curious, I mean, how did the school find its footing and find its footprint here? It's like, hey, we can kind of a wrestling power right now.
Right? Yeah, well, it all started when our men's wrestling program. Our current athletic director, Keith Spataro, was the one who kind of headed up that program. He was the original head coach, the inaugural head coach back in 2000. And at that time, they said, you know what, it'd be a good idea to also add women's. It's an emerging sport. It's on the rise around the country. Not many programs have it, but now in the NAIA, we're up to 25. We've been able to consistently build up a great culture that is second to none across the country, it seems. And we're attracting wrestlers from all over. But the two girls who have been standouts for us this year, they're actually freshmen. Wow. They just graduated Selma High School last year. Aleida Martinez, Gracie Figueroa, lightweights in the 109 and 116, ranked number 1 in their weight class. Some of our 6 ranked wrestlers, number 1. But they were undefeated in high school. They're Olympic caliber wrestlers, and they've made a huge difference in our program this year.
Now, for you personally, what's it like covering wrestling, both men and women? You know, it's kind of a niche sport. You know, it's not everybody. You can't just flip on ESPN and watch wrestling. How do you like covering it yourself?
You know, the more I've covered the sport, the more I've gotten an appreciation for it. And this is something that our head coach, Joey Martinez, loves to jaw on me about. He always says, I'm not a wrestling guy. I don't do enough for wrestling. I go, I don't know the sport. I'm trying to learn it, man. Yeah. But this year, we've been on each other. We're trying to make each other better. Me trying to make him a better head coach. I don't know how that's working, coach. But him trying to make me a better wrestling guy, and just watching it, I'm understanding it, being on the broadcast, which is not an easy thing to do for wrestling.
Right, I was about to ask, how do you learn to call wrestling?
You know, I try to just give myself as much information as possible and call what I see and kind of let it breathe a little bit. Sometimes in a sport like wrestling, when you don't know exactly the technical analysis for what's happening, let it breathe. Let the crowd come to life and let them tell the story. Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun getting to learn wrestling, and like I said, this is a perfect time for me to get into it because our women's team ranked number 1, our men's team ranked number 9, and they finished in the top 10 in nationals last year for the first time since 2013. So, I mean, I'm going to go on record and say it right now. Yeah. But I think we might have 1 or 2 national championships at Menlo this year, and they both could be wrestling.
Nice.
Just saying.
Wow, some wrestlers over there. I don't want to get in an altercation over at Menlo College.
Or we know who to call.
Yeah,
right?
right?
That's what I'm saying. Brian, thank you so much. Multifaceted, so talented. Thank you so much for taking time, talking about the great things that are happening with the Oaks at Menlo. Really appreciate your time. And hey, let's talk soon. We're getting national championship time. Let us know.
Absolutely. Okay? And hey, that's coming up next month, WCWA Nationals for women's wrestling in Atlanta, and then the NAIA tournaments in March. So big things could be on the horizon for the Oaks.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian. Brian Brownfield with Menlo College.